Hello people, back at it again, another episode of The World is Burning. Shout out to the 301 subscribers. If you want to join us, join the community and watch the world burn, give us a sub. Yes, this channel, we're just following the economic issues everyone's going through and some of these collapses. Today we're looking at homelessness, and this is one of the sleeping dragons that I think is really going to start being a serious issue. We're already spending a lot of money on it. It's already an absolute disaster, and I just think it's going to get worse with this cost of living going up and everyone's bills going up. We can see at least 300,000 people in England are registered as homeless today. I think that's really underestimated. And if you look at this, they're saying in America it's 582,000. So how can it be only 582,000 Americans are homeless, but then 309 English people are homeless when we're just a fraction of the size of you? I think this is massively underreported. And it's not a cheap problem either. You know, over here, it costs rough sleepers. The government costs them about 20,000 a year when they start having interventions and whatnot. But in America, it is outrageous. And I think this is some sort of scamming going on, in all honesty. California, just California we're talking about here, has put aside $7.2 billion in the 2021 to 2022 budget to address homelessness. Honestly, the Americans are wild with the amount of money they throw at things, and it's getting worse year on year. So they're throwing all this money, and nothing seems to be happening with it. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. Like, what is happening with all this money? If anyone in the comments works for a homeless thing in California, please leave me a comment. I'd love to know what's going on. So yeah, let's get into it. Homeless crisis. Here's the thing, guys. In a previous video, we said about how most people don't have £500 or $1,000 in savings. So most people are only a few months away from this if shit hits the fan for them. So let's see what this is saying.
Challenging is it at the moment finding accommodation for homeless people? I'm sure, for example, that arson attack in Ringsend, that's a huge setback. Because I mean, how many people were going to be housed
14 families. There was provision for, say, 70 individual beds, but that's about 12 to 14 families, depending on family sizes. It was challenging before this. I'm very worried about what happens now.
Really?
We all are.
Is it just the difficulty in sourcing accommodation?
The difficulty in sourcing, the fear that's there, that fear mongering and stoking in the community, that scares me. That element of that criminal element and that preys on fear and dissension in communities, that is a worry to me. That will affect us all.
Do we just need to tone down the rhetoric a little bit? All of us, maybe, including in the media, including politicians, including, I suppose, all of us, basically.
I think we have to be mindful. And I would say to you, in Dublin City Council, I think my experience of Dublin City councillors is there's a lot of cohesion on inclusion, on social inclusion. In general, people really stand strongly, firmly behind good principles and fair principles within the council, and I hope we continue.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they talk a good talk, but it doesn't seem like anyone seems to actually be doing anything.
All right, so what's your name?
Olivia.
Olivia. How old are you?
I'm 20.
What's your situation?
I'm homeless. I've been homeless for the past almost 7 years.
7 years,
You're homeless
fuck
out here?
no.
Yeah.
You don't look like the typical homeless person.
I'm not comfortable out here. I haven't accepted it.
So how'd you end up in your situation?
When I was 14, I was going through it mentally. My biological dad raped me.
Poor girl, poor girl. I think this Tales from the Street guy is in California as well. So where's this 7.2 billion going? Why can't she get any of that? Why can't anything happen? That's such a large amount of money. I feel like they throw the billion and trillion words around so much, it means nothing anymore. But really, a billion is a hell of a lot of money, let alone 7.2 billion.
This nigga saying what's up, bro, nigga. Wake your bitch ass up, nigga.
Yeah, there's loads of these videos of people going around messing with the homeless people. He had a syringe in his hand there as well. I think one of the big problems is they just allow him to do drugs, and the police never really enforce it. I think they need to stop that. Like, go back to, when they enforce drugs, because if you allow drug addicts to do drugs, they're gonna do drugs.
The homeless have no right to turn every park and sidewalk into a place for them to squat and do drugs. Americans should not have to step over piles of needles and waste as they walk down a street.
Yeah, just going to pause this one here. That's another thing. It's like they're actually quite inconsiderate, a lot of these homeless people. And I'm not trying to like bash them or anything, but when you see these videos of just the amount of needles that are laying on the street, this, that, and the other, it's like the government are allowing you to do drugs on the street, and you're just literally at a park leaving needles out. It's like, come on, guys, get it together.
City, or at least once beautiful city, because they've changed so much over the last 10 years. Our first consideration should be the rights and safety of the hardworking, law-abiding citizens who make our society function. When I'm back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets. We want to take care of them, but they have to be off our streets. There is nothing compassionate about letting these individuals live in filth and squalor rather than getting them the help that they need. We need
yeah, and I think that's a key point there. There's nothing compassionate about allowing thousands of homeless people to live in filth and squalor. It just destroys the cities. Go back to my doom loop video if you want to see that. That's one of the main issues with San Francisco. It's costing too much on the system. It's not working. Yeah, you got to intervene and actually do something for these people.
To help them. For a small fraction of what we spend upon Ukraine, we could take care of every homeless veteran in America. Our veterans are being treated horribly. Likewise, with all of the money we will save by ending mass unskilled migration, we will have a huge dividend to address this crisis in our own country. Under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible.
We have 4,000 children homeless tonight, and we have over 12,000 people who are homeless and people who are completely locked out of ever owning their own home, as well as the rental situation where people are paying huge rents as well. And I wouldn't mind if we were in a situation where we didn't have the money. So the government cannot use the excuse of not having the resources there. What we should have done is use the resources available to address the biggest challenges of our time, indeed the challenges that they have created over the years that they have been in government. We know that the longer that this government are in position, the worse the housing crisis is getting. So I don't know how the minister or the government can stand over what they've done today and how they've ignored the biggest crisis of all time. 4,000.
Yeah, and just looking in these comments here, it's like I did hear this. It was 80,000 Ukrainians that came over to Ireland and they all got housed. I'm not sure if that number's correct, but I do know when that Ukrainian war happened, a lot of them went to Ireland and they were instantly housed. So I don't know what's going on with the governments. I feel like they can do things. It's a bit like California when Xi Jinping came over to sort of visit. They cleaned it up for like a week and then they just let it go straight back to the shithole it is now. And it's like, come on guys, I know you can do stuff. Why isn't anyone doing anything?
When you think of homelessness, you probably think of images like this. The unhoused living on streets or under bridges in major cities around the U.S. And while homelessness is certainly an issue in many of America's cities, especially at the local level, it's an issue that's increasingly becoming a problem in suburban America, too.
This is the most amount of individuals that we have seen experiencing homelessness.
Ryan Harrison helps lead family services in Loudoun County, Virginia, a suburb about 45 minutes from Washington, D.C., known for its quaint historic districts, the country club of a former president, as well as being ranked one of the wealthiest zip codes in the entire country. But like so many suburban communities in recent years, homelessness is on the rise here. In fact, it's up 30% since 2019.
One cannot overstate the ramifications or the implications of the COVID-19 pandemic, one being the inflated cost of housing and rent. Many of our working class families are outpriced of the units that they're currently occupying.
Harrison says homelessness in suburbs sometimes isn't as visible as it is in cities, with more people out here living in shelters as opposed to the streets, but not having a home is still the same.
Ultimately, it is up to that individual to decide how they want to face this traumatic event.
The rise in homelessness has attracted the attention of the White House. Last month, the Biden administration announced a plan to reduce homelessness by 25% by 2025. Specific metro areas are being targeted, including Phoenix, Arizona. The entire state of California was selected. These areas, as well as others, will soon have dedicated federal officials working with local partners to identify ways to get everything from housing vouchers to Medicaid assistance assistance to help those in need more efficiently. Over $5 billion in federal taxpayer dollars has been spent to reduce homelessness in the last 2 years.
Government alone cannot do it.
But Thomas,
$5 billion, guys. They're just throwing money at this and it's not working. It's like, when are you going to change your plan and actually do something a little bit different other than just throwing money? Throwing money at the wall and it's just not working.
That says the issue goes well beyond government and money. He's been focused on housing issues for more than 2 decades, and he says better coordination among nonprofits is needed, as are more affordable housing options. Barnett says the biggest thing just may be a better informed public.
I think oftentimes homelessness in the suburbs has been somewhat hidden.
Joe St. George, Scripps News, Loudoun County, Virginia.
I'm trying to get to where I'm going, and ain't nobody gonna stop me or whatever going on, the talking and the captions or whatever the memes. It can't stop me because it's a vision that I have and it's goals that I have that I set out for myself that I gotta get there no matter what.
Yeah, and this is where it's going, guys. I'm seeing a massive rise in people living in caravans, cars, vans. I think that's where a lot of people are going, because it doesn't seem like the government are actually doing anything to help any of this. And when you've got no options, a £1,000 caravan that you can do up is the best option for you.
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true. Why isn't that cleaned up? Why is that graffiti there? Why are all these encampments? I spend more money on taxes every single damn year. Clean it up. Do your job. People are frustrated. We're here mindful of that mindset. I'm certainly here mindful of that mindset. And that's what brought us here a few years ago when we announced this project. Especially when I realized that I had to look in the mirror and realize that this happened on my watch, not someone else's watch. Folks say...
Yeah, the scumbag Gavin Newsom here. Like I just said a few minutes ago, he literally cleaned up the streets of San Francisco, which were insane, for Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader. And then he just let it go back to normal. So this guy, he's probably going to try to be president. He talks a lot, doesn't really do anything, and he's destroyed California. So got Jake MBA here. 700 million went to non-profits to help homelessness. They steal 95% from themselves and use 30 mil or even less to clean up the homeless. I'm sure this is going on. I am sure this is going on. I don't know the actual numbers, but we will hear that. Like I said, 7.2 billion, that's so much money. That's getting siphoned off somewhere. It must be.
5% of migrants who have received these notices have signaled that they are willing to relocate, but first need a little help.
Things like getting ID NYC, learning to speak English, OSHA training, getting reticketed, those are some examples.
City leaders say the reason for the shelter policy change is the influx of migrant families with children. Currently, the city is caring for more than 57,000 migrants, including almost 20,000 children. Officials say this is what led to almost 200 migrants sleeping outside the Roosevelt Hotel last week. However, if the city notices a significant increase in street homelessness as a result of this policy,
we would adjust.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on with the migrant crisis, but before this whole migrant crisis went on, they didn't have enough money to help the homeless in the US. I don't know how they're going to fund all this migrant stuff. Obviously, it's coming from taxpayer money, but that's a finite amount of money. One of my big predictions is these big democratic cities are going to go bankrupt in 2024. Leave me a comment if you think it's the same. I don't know how it's a sustainable thing. You just got an unlimited amount of people coming in. You're promising them housing, this, that, and the other. Yeah, I just don't know how it works.
Part of my family's a black.
Hey guys, excuse the way I look. I literally look homeless right now. I can say that because I am homeless, so it's not offensive. So yeah, Marshall got back from his job, like dead late. His job interview dead late last night, for Sainsbury's, and honestly, he's gonna find out by Wednesday. But he got a good vibe. So
hope he gets it.
Oh, and also the one for the warehouse also called him up this morning, so they've moved his second stage interview from Saturday to Wednesday. Yep, so he's going to like sort of have like pick of the bunch. He's going to have pick of the bunch come Wednesday, it feels like. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's good. I'm literally going to have to get myself dressed. I've got no fucking clean clothes left. I'm going to have to haul ass to a laundrette and you know, get us all some clean clothes, because look, say to me, like, yes, you know, before anyone says yes, I've been in these. I've been in these for a while now.
Right, we'll do one more, guys. But yeah, she's nice and positive. She's homeless and she's staying nice and positive. Sounds like she's got a boyfriend who's getting some jobs going on. So shout out to this girl. Hope he gets that job.
You know, during lockdown, they took all the homeless people off the streets, and they could do that. But they won't do it now because basically homelessness serves a political role, because it's to say to you, you better behave yourself because you could be homeless. But if we take homeless people off the streets, it costs less money. Like, I think we take homeless people off the streets because it's morally abhorrent to have people be homeless. But if you want to be a hard-ass economically about it, homelessness is very expensive in terms of crime. It's very expensive in terms of social care intervention stuff. If you take homeless people off the streets, they don't get unwell. It doesn't cost the NHS as much. It's actually cheaper you could just put them all in hotels and it would be less money than having homeless people. But they don't want to do that because the papers will say, oh, you've given them free.
Yeah, that's right. Putting them in hotels is not cheaper. It's an expensive way of doing it. Like, if you saw some of these bills, when I was doing a bit of a deep dive, I was seeing some of the bills that they were paying just to put people up in hotels during COVID. It's expensive as hell.
And so we've got to a point where the Blairite era got us obsessed with means testing. Make sure nobody gets any money they don't deserve. When actually, means testing costs a load of money as well. The other reason to have free school meals is give it to everyone, then you don't have to build a system to manage who is allowed. The system to manage who's allowed it costs more money often than just giving everyone it.
Yeah, well, I suppose bringing up on a point when you mentioned about the papers talking about homeless people. I suppose the only time they'd ever speak in favour of homeless people is if it's refugees in those hotels.
They say we could put homeless people in there.
It's like the
not
same homeless
brown
people you don't give a shit about.
Yeah, exactly. It's always a hierarchy of who do they hate the most.
So there were.
All right, guys, we'll leave it there. This homeless crisis isn't getting any better, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more people as well living in the cars, turning to vans, doing this different style of housing because they have no options. Let me know what it's like in your area, guys. I love hearing from you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.